Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fireside chat today on small business approach to digital transformation. My name is Madan Mohan from Your Story, and on behalf of all of us at Your Story, welcome to this fireside chat. We have two outstanding panelists with us today, but before I introduce them, let me set the context very briefly. Almost overnight, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic changed the face of India's business landscape. As a result, going digital has emerged as the best way to attain new growth opportunities. So much so that according to a McKinsey report, companies have accelerated the digitization of their customer and supply chain interactions and internal operations by almost 3 to 4 years. In the past year, some of the small businesses that were able to carry out a successful digital transformation were able to grow in new and exciting directions. However, given the various technology solutions and the many applications, clarity is required for most small businesses on the best way to carry out a digital transformation. Today, we will discuss the role of digital transformation in enabling SMEs to get again competitive advantage in the post pandemic world. We will look at the opportunities and the way forward to a digital transformation. We have with us two industry leaders who have worked closely with small businesses in these areas. They will be sharing their insights on small business approach to digital transformation. It's my pleasure now to first introduce Sampath Swain, co-founder and CEO at Mojo on the panel. Sampath is a serial entrepreneur. He co-founded three startups before Mojo, one of India's largest on-demand payments and e-commerce platforms. It empowers over 1.2 lakh micro entrepreneurs, startups, and MSMEs to run their businesses online. Welcome aboard, Sampath.
Good to be here, Madan. Thank you.
Thanks again, Sampath. We also have with us Vikas Saraugi, Vice President Merchant Acceptance for South Asia at MasterCard. Vikas is a global payments industry professional with more than 17 years of experience in merchant acceptance, emerging payment technologies, transit payments, and other payment related fields. He was a part of the core team that worked on the launch of Bharat QR, the first global interoperable QR solution. Prior to MasterCard, Vikas has worked with HDFC Bank. Welcome aboard, Vikas.
Thank you, Madan. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Vikas. Let's first begin with a round of questions for Sampath. Sampath, you've had a ringside view of the challenges faced by small businesses for close to a decade now. What do you think were some of the challenges faced by business in this past year, the year that just passed? How has digitization helped companies to face these challenges? Sampath?
Correct. So there are to unpack that question. I would like to break down the question in two halves. The kind of merchants we're talking about here, right? So quickly, there are two kind of merchants. One are the digital natives who were born on the internet, so as to say, to carry on their business. People who are in the social platforms like Facebook, Instagram of the world, right? For them, a lot has changed, of course, because they were interacting the clientele possibly in the offline world. Now that is not happening. But the biggest problem happened for the people who are in the O2O world, right? People who are moving from the offline to online world, right? Now for them, they had possibly a physical establishments of sorts where they expected footfalls to happen. Now in the last 12 odd months, of course, that went to a grinding halt, right? So I think for them, it has been quite difficult. And what we at Mojo have done is created a sort of a digital ramp, if you may, to take the first step to traverse from that offline to online world by setting up the store, collecting payments, and so on and so forth, right? So I think that's been the challenge for that digital native to the offline to online world merchants.
Thanks, Sampath, for setting the context there. Let's turn now to Vikas. Vikas, what are some of the challenges faced by small businesses in facilitating payments in the current business environment? What is the best approach for them in such a scenario? Vikas?
So, Madan, I think the SMEs or small businesses, the challenges have always been three. One is how do you grow your sales? Second is how do you grow your business? And third is how do you improve your productivity and efficiency? Those three challenges remain. And when we talk of digital payments, and Sampath was alluding to that, it actually, all those 3 pain points in some way or the other can be alleviated by digital payments. And we have data to prove that. Now, what this pandemic has done has accelerated this entire digital payments journey. Or I would say it has almost come like a demonetization 2.0. So there was a shift in consumer behavior. I mean, we have done our own research. As per the research, more than 50% consumers said that they would go for contactless payments. They have used contactless payments. And more than 80% consumers also said that even after the pandemic is over, they will continue to do the same. So which means that these new modes of payments which existed earlier as well, they have got fast tracked, or the digital payments has got accelerated. So what that means is that the merchants or small businesses have to accept this new reality and adopt to the new paradigm. And let me give you an example. So I used to, go to a neighborhood grocery store every weekend to buy my groceries or pharmacies. Now, suddenly when the lockdown happened, I just could not go. I could not step out of my house. And my neighborhood grocery store, he never did home deliveries for some reason. And he had no means of collecting payments from home. So I was pushed to look at alternatives. And that is where a small, another store, he started sending WhatsApp messages with a list of essentials and sending a payment link for collection of payments. And I tried that, and I changed my, buying pattern from the previous grocery store to the new one. And so that the new small business who was able to adapt to the new reality was able to provide deliveries and collect payments from home. He was the winner. And I think that is what the small businesses we need to do. In principally, I would say the need of the hour is that any business, small business, has to think of catering to all the needs of the customer, which is a basic, right? And the need for the customer today is an omni-channel kind of a mechanism. So for the merchant, that means if a consumer comes to his store, he should be able to accept payments. But if a consumer wants home deliveries, he should be able to provide that through remote payments. So I would say any form factor, as long as it is omni-channel, I think that is the need of the hour.
Thanks, Vikas. Those are great insights right there. Technology does change behaviors and businesses must adapt to these new changes. Let's turn again to Sampath now. Sampath, what do you think are the best ways for small businesses to secure these kinds of business insights that they need to go to new heights? Sampath?
No, I think this insights, so some of the insights that Vikas mentioned are pretty obvious in nature, that you need to be changing with changing times. So was the times of COVID. But if you kind of go deeper than just kind of using common sense to change your behavior. But I think for that, what we define is basically merchants are required to be more and more online, right? So kind of if you kind of think about this as a spectrum, right? So the businesses, there are less online businesses and businesses, there are more online businesses, right? And the overlying context is we believe that the era of offline businesses are over for good. Like, I don't think there are anything called offline businesses. The businesses who either are less online or businesses who are more online. Businesses who are less online are basically businesses who may just have a listing on Google. Like if you go on Google Map, you can just search and you can find it, right? And businesses who are more online are basically businesses who actually have their own brand destination. Like you can go to yourstory.com, which is a brand destination, right? Now, people who are less online, they have much lesser insights because Google is not there to give you more insights about your business and about visibility. And then merchants who have their own brand destination, they would obviously go about gathering and collecting more and more information about customers' behavior and so on and so forth, right? So our entire push at InstaMojo has been what solution should we bring to the marketplace, which helps a small business owner to traverse from this less online way of doing business to more online way of doing business, right? So that's how we go about it, Madan.
Thanks, Sampath. Another big challenge for companies now is how to conserve cash. It's very important today to conserve capital. So let me ask Vikas this question. What are some innovative ways in which technology solutions can be built specifically for small businesses to optimize their costs? Vikas?
Sure, Madan. So let me share an insight. I had worked in Europe for 6 months, and I thought when I go there, I would be able to bring back some, case studies, some of the best technology solutions back to India, which could be implemented here. But I discovered two things. One, India is far ahead of the Western markets when it comes to innovation. Right? And secondly, whatever was available in those markets, it does not fit for India. Right? So India is fundamentally a mobile first market. And I think we need to play to our strengths. And the strength that comes with it is that the devices that we are carrying today in our pockets, the mobile devices, these are 1 million times smaller, 1 million times even cheaper, and yet 1,000 times more powerful than the first supercomputer, which was housed in MIT and it almost took over an entire building not many decades back. So we need to look at solutions which can leverage the power of the mobiles, because this is a device which today I think most of the small businesses have. And if we do that effectively, then in a way we can reduce the cost. And you're talking about conserving capital, we can do that to a great extent. And this is where we went to the drawing board about 2 to 3 years back and said, if today's small businesses are using a point of sale device which costs whatever 8 to 10,000 rupees, is there a way we can simulate that kind of user experience on this device? And this is where we worked with technology companies, a partner like Worldline. And last year, we launched a omni-channel soft POS solution. And this was a global first, mind you. And what I mean by omni-channel is all that a small business needs to do is download an application on his smartphone. And then he'll be able to facilitate face-to-face payments, a consumer coming to his store, either through tap on phone. A consumer can just tap the card on the merchant mobile phone, or QR-based payments, another way, scan and pay in the store, or even collect remote payments by sending a link, which is the pet mode of Sampad. Send a link to the customer sitting at home and collect payments. And we have thrown certain value-added services on top of that to make this entire package very, very powerful for the small business. So these value-added services could be like creating a digital avatar of the store, e-khata, even collecting cash transactions on your mobile app, and so on and so forth. So this is something we did to reduce the cost of acceptance or the use of technology to reduce the cost for the merchants, and yet give a very powerful solution. Now, this was it was a white label solution. We are working with multiple banks. It has been a huge success. And each one of them is now trying to come out their own app to facilitate this kind of a solution.
Thanks, Vikas. That's another nice shift you identified over there. India in some ways can be ahead of some of the other markets. Let's turn the same question to Sampath now. Sampath, what are some of your thoughts on how technology solutions can help small businesses optimize their costs? Sampath?
No, so obviously our context is what we are seeing and we're learning at Insta. So I would not be able to comment on what the broader world is working on. So the way we look at it is, as I said, if I take a leaf from the last context I mentioned about less online to more online. Now, to operate a successful online business, right, we have established the fact that that's the most efficient of going about it, especially in times like this, right, where you are hunched at home and you are forced to do business more remotely, right? Now, to successfully run an online business, there are a bunch of tools, right? You need to run it, like starting from payments, of course, to marketing, to shipping, and so on and so forth, right? So there are a whole host of tools you need to kind of, on a daily basis, manage to run your business online. Now, obviously, these businesses and these tools, rather, are available out there in the marketplace. But unfortunately, they are in separate windows. Like you can go to a platform which provides excellent payments infrastructure. You can go to a partner who gives you a successful shipping infrastructure, marketing infrastructure, customer support, CRM, and so on. So they're all available. But unfortunately, that is why the death by tools happen for small merchants and businesses. But if you think about a small business owner, she is literally 1 or 3 or 5 or 10 people max. So they are literally doing like Durga Ma, literally infrastructure they are running, right? So single man army or woman army, right? Now, for them, the best option is to find a provider / a platform where all these tools which are necessary to run your business are pre-integrated, so that you get a view of your entire business through one dashboard or a unified dashboard, rather than going and paying to set 20 vendors across 20 windows, which requires to spend not only money but also a lot of your time, because small business owner, time is equal to money. It's better if you find a platform which gives you all these tools to run your business in one place. And that is exactly where we come at Mojo, saying, can we bring all the service providers, right, to one unified dashboard where a business owner, she's able to run a business across mobile and web from first sale to full scale in a very simple and affordable manner, where she's able to navigate in few clicks, rather than going and talking to a delivery partner and 20 payments partner and 5 CRM partners and everything. I think through that, Obviously, a huge amount of cost saving is imbibed in your business because you're not talking to individual partners. You're going to one person who's giving you a certain a price, which most often not will be very affordable because we work at a larger scale, right? I think that's a very optimal way, Madan, to kind of run your business, operating and finding a partner where each and every tools which are required to successfully run your business, online business, are available.
Thanks, Sampath. That's a very good, compelling case you made there for having an integrated dashboard. Let me turn to Vikas now. Vikas, more specifically, can you talk about the various features of MasterCard that small businesses can use to improve their productivity, to improve their competitiveness? Vikas?
Sure. So as I said, any small business faces three challenges, which is grow sales, grow your business, and the third one is the productivity and efficiencies. And I think, and Sampath alluded to that, how he has simplified the entire solution piece to solve for all those three things. Now, at MasterCard, we do this in two manners. Either we build something on our own, or we partner with players like Sampath and Insta Mojo, right? And so what we have done here is we did three things. One, from the merchant perspective, the small business perspective, and they are spread across a country, a big country, almost like a continent like India. It's more of a continent. How do you ensure that in the nooks and corners of the country, the small businesses can get an acceptance device or can get a working capital, without doing that entire manually intensive, paper intensive kind of work to facilitate all that? So this is where we partnered with a company called Signsy, which created a digital platform which helps in digitizing the entire workflow to onboard a merchant, whether it is for acceptance or whether it is for lending. And the beauty of it is that it reduces the turnaround time for a merchant to avail these services by almost 90% and reduce the cost for the acquirer as well by a certain, a similar number. Apart from that, we partnered with a company called Zoho, again, another Indian company based out of Chennai, and they are specially focused on improving the productivity and efficiencies of small businesses. So any software tool that a business might require to run business more efficiently, right from a simple thing like having your own official email ID to having an expense management solution, or having customer relationship management solution, or just for example, we are on this Zoom chat. They have a Zoom equivalent for the businesses. So any tool that a business might require, they have world-class products and at a fraction of a price point. And this is where we have partnered with them exclusively across the world to distribute their products, to work with our members, the banks and the fintech partners, to reach out to these small businesses to improve their efficiencies and improve their productivities.
Thanks, because we've talked quite a bit about the opportunities of digital and the impact it can have for SMEs. Let's talk about some of the challenges now. One big concern seems to be security in the digital world. So, Sampath, what are some ways in which you're helping SMEs deal with these security issues in the online world? Sampath?
The single line answer to this, they don't have to deal with that, right? That's our problem, right? So if they have to deal with it, then we might as well shut shop and do something else. So that's kind of the quirky of telling you, right? Obviously, under the hood, we have to do a lot of work, especially in payments. We need to kind of take care of not just domestic, but regulation, but also global compliances, right? And nobody knows better than Vikas here. So we have to kind of do that. And that's kind of table stakes to begin with. Apart from that, there are a lot of other stuff we as a business and a platform we have to take care of, because we're onboarding thousands of small business owners on a daily basis on the platform, right? And there are certain miscreants who can create havoc, right? So we have to do our own, create own device and own algorithm to kind of devise the bad guys from the good guys, right? And they're always like 1% person who will basically create havoc for the rest 99%, right? So we have our own proprietary algorithms using machine learning and AI we kind of deploy to kind of detect that on an ongoing basis as we speak, right? So that's kind of quick way of looking at security. As I said, the best way to handle security for SMB is not to handle it, and hence trusting on a reputed platform who has been there and whose vision and mission is aligned to theirs is the best way to go about it.
Thanks, Sampath. Let me turn that question to Vikas now. Vikas, what are some ways in which you are addressing the security concerns of SMBs in your portfolio? Vikas?
I'm happy to say we are happy to partner with people like Sampath and Insta Mojo, who wants to take away the pain from the merchant. I think that's the best way to do it. But jokes aside, see, I think again, basically, the biggest concern for a small business always is whether he'll get his money back or not. That's the fundamental question he always has in his mind. And this is where we have been working on a few solutions to ensure how digital payments can be better than cash. And actually, they are. So, for example, merchants always fear, whether they'll get a counterfeit card. So that's where a long time back we introduced the EMV chip technology, which makes it almost like extremely difficult to clone a card. Then on the online transactions, we had two-factor authentication, which Sampath and in the team they do it right for all online transactions. That prevents a lot of fraud. We're going a step further. We are now introducing 3DS 2.0, which means that it's not only OTP or a password you have to remember to do a transaction, but with every transaction, there will be almost 32 different data fields that will be going on to the issuer for authorization and authentication of the transaction. That makes the entire transaction process far more secure. And now we are going even one step further, where we are saying that we will tokenize the consumer card credentials. And if the merchant has to save any card data, it will be in the form of tokens, which means that in this entire ecosystem, anything was to be compromised, the consumer data, card data will not get compromised. So it overall protects the entire ecosystem. From the merchant perspective, because of all these steps that we have taken, the frauds and chargeback rates in India are actually among the lowest in the world. And I think what is happening is, I think there's an awareness problem. I think merchants might not know this, how digital payments are more secure actually than the cash transactions they're doing, because that is, susceptible to a counterfeit note, money being stolen, and he has to manage cash and so on and so forth. So I would say all the steps that we have taken and the way we are doing, I think digital payments, especially cards, are very, very secure means of payments on the merchant and small businesses side.
Thanks. That was a very reassuring response from both of you. Before we take questions from the audience, I've got one last question for both of you, looking towards the future. What do you think are some roadmaps SMEs should have for their digital journey? What are some milestones? What are some steps? What comes first? What comes next? Vikas, you want to begin with that?
So as I said, and Sampath articulated this beautifully, that today everybody is online. It's not a choice. You have to be more online. That's what Sampath always likes to say. So I would say that the businesses need to make their, small businesses specifically, need to make their businesses future-proof by investing in technologies which help them become digital and improve efficiencies. And as I said, the good starting point is, because of the pandemic, what are consumers wanting? And a consumer is wanting digital payment. Secondly, from a small business perspective, he needs an omni-channel kind of mechanism to cater to the needs of all the consumers, whether they are coming in store or whether they are sitting at home and ordering. So that is something I think all businesses need to think. They have to start their digital journey. It starts with something as basic as Sampath's key product, which is link-based payments. You don't need a website. You don't need any infrastructure. All that you need is send a link to the consumer and collect payments. I think that's the easiest way of collecting payments, and that could be the first step, I would say. And from there on, you build onto that. Build onto whether you want a point of sale device, you want an MPOS device, or as I said, you can go for a soft POS device, a soft POS on your phone, which essentially is an omni-channel kind of experience. And I think that is where most of the businesses need to go to, which is what Sampath said, offline to online. I think that's a journey which every small business need to undertake.
Thanks, Vikas. Let's turn to Sampath now. Sampath, what would you suggest are some steps, some phases for SMEs to start in their digital journey? Sampath?
Get on board instamojo.com. That's a small plug, I can say. No, as Vikas said, follow the consumer, right? As well, he articulated that, right? Just follow the consumer. We are all online, right? And recent data, if you and this is pre-pandemic, 87% of our consumers were researching online before they purchase anything, right? So if they are online, why are you not online, right? And as I said, there are steps I mentioned in earlier conversation that there are steps to be taken from coming from a less online way of doing business to more online way of doing business. So that's the only way you can future-proof it, you can foolproof it, because consumers are, will, and in the future will be online, right? And for there, and obviously there are a lot more benefits that SMB can get if she's online, right? Starting from brand recognition, larger market, better margins, better insights, right? So all the reasons and all the opportunities are there outside the offline world, and the pandemic has clearly shown that they've been forced to do so. Now, obviously, they should find a better platform, a larger platform to kind of onboard themselves and kind of take the first step to kind of grow their business in the digital world. The tools are available is my larger point here.
Thanks, Sampath. Thanks, Vikas. Let's turn now to some audience questions. We got about 5 to 6 questions coming from the audience. We asked them to send us these questions in advance. The first question coming from the audience is, what are the pros and cons of digital transformation in MSMEs? We've talked about how it has to happen, but what are the pros and the cons? Vikas, you want to begin with that?
That's a tough question because I don't have an answer to the second part of the question, which is the cons. I don't see any con there. So I only see pros there. And as I said, any business, small business, wants to grow sales. And we have seen, and the data says that a business which has gone online, and this was a Google research which said, the profits of that business is twice that of an offline business. Okay? The revenue of a business, there was another research which said, grows by 34% compared to a non-online business. So very clearly, if you accept digital payments, you are bound to increase your sales, which is the first challenge which SME faces, right? Second is working capital requirements to grow their business. Every small business wants to grow. And we have seen how they are, always, facing this challenge from some of the banks that they're working with. And this is where a lot of fintechs today and the banks are also looking at the, transaction history of the merchants and give them some sort of lending. In fact, Sampath and teams have done something like this, and fabulously. They give short-term sachet loans to the small businesses to grow their business. Again, that again, going digital helps them solve that. And thirdly, to improve your efficiencies and productivity, again, digital comes in very, very handy. So I see all the pros and yet to figure out a con.
That's a great answer, Vikas. How about you, Sampath? Do you see any cons, pros? How do you balance out these for an SME?
Vikas took away the best part of the question. No, so let me kind of point out certain real life scenarios here, right? So as I mentioned earlier, vast majority of SMBs in India are in the offline world, right? And the pandemic has clearly forcing them to gravitate online, right? Now, in a offline world, you are meeting your client, meeting your customers face to face. There is a relationship getting built up. Now, to kind of mirror that same relationship in a digital, non-present environment, it's clearly not easy for a lot of different kind of business owners, right? So there is a little bit of a uphill climb that she has to do from the way she should do business to this new way of doing business. Again, fortunately, there are tools and more available, right? And most of the tools are not a very expensive, not a very complex tools. Most of these tools are easily available in the internet, at times free, and as simple to use like a Gmail or a Facebook, right? So the biggest risk is adoption and the fear of technology. And it is us entrepreneurs who need to figure out a way to abstract the complexity of the softwares and make it really simple, as we call it at Insta Mojo, that our grandmothers can use. Like, you cannot build it for a tech savvy, suave, Koramangala audience. That's not real India, right? Real India is beyond Koramangala and beyond tech savviness, right? And that's upon us, right? And again, as I said, folks like us at Insta Mojo and others, we are doing it. We are at it. It's a moving line, but we are getting better as we speak.
Thanks, Sampath. I'm very happy to hear that mention of Koramangala there. And the key message coming out from both of you is they're not really cons as such. There are some challenges, maybe a learning curve and things of that sort, but they don't take away from a business advantage. The next question is much more specific to each of you, which is, what are the top concerns about digitization and how do you, MasterCard, and you, InstaMojo, address these? Vikas, you want to start with that?
Maybe I'll give it to Sampath first. Last time, I was the one who started.
I'll flip the question and try to answer that in a way which is slightly different, which is, what is our edge, right? So here's as simple as it, Madan, right? We understand SMB software better than e-commerce players, and e-commerce industry better than SMB players, right? And that's our edge, right? I hope you're on the same page on that. So I think that is where we're going. We are being a software maker for SMBs in the e-commerce industry, and our learning over the last 7-8 years have been immense. And learning is not from anecdotal learning, but from data, right? Today we have algorithms and creating more of the same, which are which are giving us ability to sell faster and make lesser mistakes. Hence, I said that we understand SMB software better than e-commerce players and e-commerce industry better than SMB software players, right? And that's our edge, and we are moving forward with that. And a lot of this will translate in terms of the solutioning, the product, the roadmap, and in the affordability and the simplicity scale back to the merchant community as well.
Thanks, Sampath. There's another great question that's come up from the audience now. Oh, hang on, we haven't finished Vikas yet, right? Vikas, you want to take that one?
Yeah,
Top concerns what MasterCard is doing.
Yeah, so I think Sampath has articulated very well. Just to add on to what Sampath said, I think the biggest concerns for any small businesses, simplicity of the solution. They don't want complexity. The genius lies in making the solution as simple as possible. And that is, I think, the first concern. For a lot of small businesses, digitization, all these could sound very scary words. So how can you make the solution very simple for them to understand? And secondly, I think this entire awareness about frauds, risk, and all the security concerns which small businesses might have, again associated with digital payments. I think a lot more awareness needs to be built around that. And our endeavor has always been to create simple solutions. That is why we love what Insta Mojo has done in terms of creating a very simple the entire solution architecture or the stack for small businesses. And that has been the way we have been also coming out with solutions, whether it is soft POS or a digital onboarding solution, and so on and so forth. Very simple, which can address the needs of small businesses.
Thanks, Vikas. Let's go now to that question from the audience. It's a very nice, much more broad question now, which is what is the impact that digital transformation of SMEs will have to the whole country and to the whole economy? What is the big, broader picture that's coming out of this? Vikas?
Small businesses, India is made of small businesses. I think they form the backbone of the Indian economy. If you were to put in terms of numbers, I think what small businesses contribute to almost like 35% of India's GDP. They contribute to something like 40% of India's employment. And they have more than 65 million small businesses in India. So by any yardstick, if India has to grow and has to become a 5 trillion economy, I think the contribution of small businesses become extremely important. And there is a huge runway for them to grow their productivity. A lot of them are still offline, right? Out of 65 million, which includes B2B, B2C, hardly, I would say, 5 to 6 million unique merchants are accepting digital payments. So that's something which can be clearly done over the next few years. If we take this 6-7 million merchants to 15 to 20 million merchants, think about the impact it will have on India's GDP and India's dream of that 5 trillion economy. I think that can be achieved by helping these small businesses. And that's where MasterCard is putting a lot of energy, a lot of money, investment, and time in ensuring that we put our shoulder behind the wheel.
Those are some great metrics there, Vikas. How about you, Sampath? What kind of a big picture are you seeing from 30,000 feet? Where is all this going, Sampath?
First of all, I think the $5 trillion GDP should be much bigger. I've never been a big proponent of going from 2.5 trillion to 5 trillion. That means you're being conservative. Like, try to keep it 25 trillion and then maybe we can reach 5, because then the policies, the actions, the regulations will have to be much more measured and much more bigger, right, from an impact point of view. But again, coming back to the question, see, clearly, apart from what Vikas said, I think what will happen once more and more small MSMEs and SMBs get digitized, they're partially becoming part of the formal economy, right? That's happening, right? So mass formalization is happening as we speak. Like, for example, today we are trying to convert 10 million SMBs over the next few years to be part of Insta Mojo platform. That's just Insta Mojo. And there are obviously my peers and colleagues and others who are doing the same thing, right? All these businesses are coming and joining the formal economy, where the exchequer will get visibility and obviously it will add to revenues as well. And the revenues hopefully will trickle back to the economy in some form or fashion. So this is like the very beautiful flywheel effect. As more and more small businesses join the digital economy, that means more and more formalization happen. More and more data would be there in the public, right? In terms of government and on that side and supply side, in terms of merchants will get more and more information about what is the right thing to go about, right? That will act to more exchequer getting more money, which will be reinvested back to the economy, right? Which hopefully will go back to the small business again in some form or fashion, right? This is where we are starting today. We're talking about pandemic, while it has been devastating and once in a lifetime event for all of us in a big way or small way. If you think about the glass half full, I'm thinking about this is potentially a big, large event that can move our economy forward in a much bigger way. Obviously, this is temporary a hiccup that we all are facing in some form of fashion, right? But if you think from a next 5-10 years horizon, I think this could be the time we can go back at the end of the decade and say, you know what, that was a momentous moment in 2010 when that pandemic happened, and it kind of gave us a huge fillip to the economy in the form of SMBs joining the formal economy itself, right? So I think that is how we at Mojo obviously have a huge view, and we believe that, as I said in the earlier conversation, that the era of offline business is over for good. The question is, at the end of the decade, I hope like 65-70 million SMBs that are there in the country, they're all formalized, right? Obviously, we will be one of the benefactors, but it will be beneficial to the economy overall, right? And imagine the job creation, everything that can happen post that as well.
That's a very compelling vision of the future there, Sampath. The next question that we have from the audience is about scale. It's one thing to get started with digital, it's another thing to scale. So what are some of your tips on how SMEs should use digital to scale their operations? You want to start, Sampath?
No, I think that question lies after, let me kind of give you a quick story around it. In 2008-9, when I started my first business, we were in the business, I used to call my co-founders, the business of selling internet. Like we used to really sell internet to the small business owners, saying, there is something called internet where you come and start your business, because that is the era of Orkut and early Facebook and maybe early WhatsApp. So it was used for frivolous reasons, not to kind of do serious stuff. In 2012, when Mojo started, we were not in the business of selling internet. That is the era we were trying to tell them, you know what, you can come and start your business. In 2020, now we are selling, boss, not about selling internet or not about starting business. Now businesses are asking, hey Sampath, how can we go about scaling our business, right? Now, so that is where you arrive. Now the question is, in the next 10 years, what will happen? With the previous 10 years, we have established that in the internet, you can basically start and imagine about scaling and building a brand out of it. Now, to scale your business, there are a lot of things to be required to be organized in the same. Obviously, as I mentioned in the earlier conversation, there are series of tools that are required, which thankfully people like us and others are already creating and providing access to. The second leg is credit, formalization of credit for SMBs, which is still, we are not there yet, to be very honest. My only submission is I hope it gets better over the period of time as we speak, right? The third thing is ability to use multiple tools which will go about building a brand for yourself. Because the moment you build a brand, like we have seen enough D2C brand in the country, right? You're able to charge higher premium, higher commission, and so on and so forth, right? That's a journey merchants have to take, starting from starting your business, then managing your business, to growing your business, to becoming a brand, right? We have a lot of tools in starting phase. We have a slightly meager tools in managing. Where we need to focus as solution providers is to give a lot of focus on the growing part of SMB's journey, which is, can we give them formal access to credit? Can we help them advertise and which they can become a brand? Can we create solutions which are used by large companies, right? And kind of dub it down to like smaller SMBs, right? In sachet packets, if I may, right? So those are the areas that need to be focused for them to scale faster.
Thanks, Sampath. Those are some good tips on scale. And in your case, Vikas, you're a global player already. What are some ways in which you can help SMEs become more big, scale, faster, global, and so on? Vikas?
I mean, Sampath raised some very important points. I think the basic starting point for any small business to think of scale is first to change the mindset. The mindset has to first change. You know, if you have to achieve scale, you have to first think big. And secondly, you can't remain in an informal economy and dream of becoming big, and which is what Sampath spoke about. You first have got to get into a formal economy, right? And then if you don't have capital, then raise capital, and then achieve scale. Those are the two paramount things, right? And this is where digital payments help in both. You first get into a formal economy by collecting digital payments. Once you have a track record, then you'll be able to raise capital, and then you grow. And where a player like MasterCard comes in is we provide access to the entire globe. You don't need to have consumers only in your backyard. You can, practically the entire globe is the universe, or the universe of your consumers. So this is what MasterCard brings. You can collect payments from consumers all over the world. So that is what we've been doing. We've been helping small businesses and fintech, especially, to grow through some of our programs, global. So, for example, we have partnered with Insta, Mojo, and Sampath. He was part of a Start Path program, and a fintech player like him has great potential to grow across the world. And this is what MasterCard does.
Thanks, Vikas. Our last question is a classic MSME question, which is how much is all this going to cost? How much does it cost to build the digital footprint, say, for example, an online store, a payment acceptance system, a billing process, and so on? Sampath, you want to take a crack at that?
Yeah, I think payments will cost you 2% change per transaction post facto. So this is a success fee model. Our store business has two parts. If you want to build your online store, unbranded online store, it will not cost you anything. You have to just pay us a small fee post sale. Again, a success fee model. And if you want to create a branded store, which is a premium offering, you have to pay us about 7,500 rupees per year, which literally kind of boils down to what you have to pay us 8 rupees per day, right? Model for that. So that's kind of our online store business model and our integrated payments model.
Thanks, Sampath. What about you, Vikas? What are some of the cost implications for MSMEs who want to use some of your services and platforms? Vikas?
So firstly, I don't think it's a cost. I think, again, the mindset has to change. This is an investment which any business needs to make to grow their business. So that has to be the first thing which the MSME should think. It's not a cost, it's an investment, right? And Sampath alluded to just a transaction cost of 2%. If you look at the overall picture, that is nothing. That's just peanuts. If you really want to achieve scale, you can't think of scale and not do investment, right? And if you're looking at 5x, 10x, then certain single-digit percentage terms is nothing. This is the lowest form of investment that you can make in your business to grow your business, right? But again, if you want to be specific, then I would say there are multiple solutions available in the market to grow online. On the Insta Mojo platform, you can go online without any fixed cost. Correct me, Sampath, if I'm wrong. But there will be a transaction cost, and that transaction cost will always be there to collect payments, because even there's a cost of collecting cash, which people don't realize, but it exists. So I would say it's an investment, and that investment is, it gives you, I would say, the best returns possible for a small business.
Vikas, Sampath, thank you so much for this very insightful discussion. I think my three key takeaways from this are what I would say the three S's: simplicity, security, and scale. Keep it simple, integrate everything, make it work for your customers. Security, keep an eye on trust of your customers. And last but not least, scale. Digital gives you scale to go across the country, across the world. With that, once again, Vikas and Sampath, thank you so much for your insights. I'm sure the audience enjoyed them as well. Thanks.